And at the same time that all of that is happening, there is a blended cultural style that is known as Tejano, that is neither, it is Texan, it is Mexican, and it is American all at the same time, and it is a very specific music and manner of dress, and the pickup truck you drive, and so to me, this word, which is a controversial word in many places, the idea of mestizo, because it is a word that is about impurity, not purity, it is about mixed blood, was the word that to me really conjured up the image of the style of architecture that I wanted to try and give voice to. Because it was it wasn't the German hill country house for a rich person, but it wasn't just about the Mexican-American barrio. It was trying to find an accommodation of both. And to me, that was very much a part of the American experience. So we decided that we would talk about a regionalism that was not only about geography, or about climate, but was also about social and cultural interaction. The first building that I had an opportunity to work on after that light went on was a building for the University of Texas system, Pan American in Edinburgh, Texas, which is about maybe 50 miles north of the border of Mexico. And this was the context that we were working in. So it had a very strong existing architecture. And we had actually contributed to that architecture by designing a very well-beloved and handsome engineering building. And next to it, we were going to design the science complex. What I found on the site was this old planetarium. And so I thought that was a great thing, and I went to the University of Texas system and said, really the centerpiece of this new place needs to be this planetarium, and the University of Texas system said, no, we really want to demolish that. And I said, well, there aren't any planetariums in that whole area of Texas. I mean, we're talking hundreds of miles without a planetarium. And they said, well, if you can raise the money to save it, you can save it. And so we started a kind of a community campaign that bubbled up from the high school and elementary school teachers in this area, and within a period of about 90 days we had raised over $250,000 to save the planetarium. And so we decided that we would tie the planetarium to an educational idea. That these young kids, who are primarily Hispanic, had a tradition of astronomy, science, and math in their history and heritage too. Their textbooks didn't tell them that they did. And so we started looking at the monumental architecture of the Americas. This is a courtyard plan from the most famous pyramid in Mexico, and decided to make the building a courtyard building that would wrap itself around the existing planetarium, and that the courtyard would be a lesson in astronomy, that it would become the solar system itself, and that we would go ahead and make the fabric of the building on the skin of the building that related back to the rest of the campus, more of the same of what the campus was expecting, and that's what I showed the Board of Regents. But when you got inside the courtyard itself, it became its own wonderful thing. Not really understanding what the architecture might be. We looked at Gaudi's tile architecture in Spain. So this will show you kind of the fabric of the building with the courtyard inside. This is the planetarium renovated, which is now the Earth. And the main student interaction area, social area, which is the sun. We broke the circulation out to be the planets and made the interior kind of a journey through space. As you got closer to the sun, then the colors changed incredibly, so it also became an exploration of color. And there was a lot of discussion about whether color was actually an enhancement to the learning process or an interference. And to me, while I love the architecture of the building, the most important thing about this project was not the architecture as much as it was the social statement of preserving the planetarium and bringing school kids into this courtyard every week and allowing them to stand in the shadow of a science building and know that if they stay in school, they can be scientists and mathematicians and astronomers. When we got through that project and the conversation and the dialogue with the community had been so strong, it became an activism in itself. We decided that we needed to change our process, that before we ever started to draw a building, we really needed to listen to what that community was saying about who they were, how they saw themselves, what their history was, and what their aspirations were, and try within a continuum of everything from traditional arched architecture, Spanish classical architecture, to more conceptual work, find a way within very limited budgets to try and express through the architecture a sense of identity. So this is a project in La Jolla, not La Jolla, California, but La Jolla, Texas. And La Jolla is a very fast-growing, actually, at this point, relatively wealthy community, one of the fastest-growing school districts in the state of Texas. But the community center is basically Highway 83. And along Highway 83, you will find all of the McDonald's and 7-Elevens that you want to have. But across the border, their community center is this really wonderful park with a gazebo in the middle of it. And their American counterpart doesn't have that. So in the design of a middle school in La Jolla, we decided that it was important for the middle school to have a community presence that went beyond what you usually find in a middle school. And so this project, quite honestly, is a series of very inexpensive, in some cases, pre-manufactured buildings that are organized around a much more important public space that is used not only by the school district, but the entire community. It is an architecture of modest resources, but it has an expression at every entry about the way this community sees itself. And it was a turning point in our firm's history because in working with this community to try and define who they were and to come back with an architecture that quite honestly was about $50 less a square foot than any other school that was being built at the time, this project now won a major state design award.